Way down yonder in the middle of the field, angel working on the chariot wheel. Not so particular about the chariot wheel, just want to see how the chariot feel. Oh, let me fly, oh, let me fly. I want to let me fly to my Zion, Lord, Lord. Oh, let me fly, oh, let me fly.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Ty Douglas, and it is my honor on behalf of the Williams family to welcome you to this virtual conversation where we will acknowledge, celebrate, and honor the life and legacy of Mr. Warren Williams. As you are watching this and experiencing this, we want to make sure that you are aware that in about an hour and a half or so, you will have the opportunity to experience the documentary The Man Behind the Voice, which was produced by Joelle Williams Productions, Warren Williams' daughter. And we want to celebrate and acknowledge her expertise and her excellence in producing that documentary. This conversation will lead us into the experience of the documentary. Before you can think about the man behind the voice, we want you to think about the village behind the man. We recognize that Warren Williams was a generational talent, was a generational musician and man of influence. And we want to get a sense of the people who have been a part of his journey and some of the voices that perhaps were not as loudly heard or amplified in the documentary. And so we're going to take you on a journey, starting, of course, in Bermuda, making our way across the Atlantic to Pine Forge Academy, and then making our way back to Birmingham, to his home, and to his influence with the likes of the Warriors, the Harmony Four, and we even have a special guest or two that will make you perhaps feel excited and glad that you joined us. So with that, I'd like to have a quick word of prayer, and then we will invite our first guest, Mr. Raymond Simon, to help to ground our conversation today. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be in community with the family, friends, and the countries that have been impacted by Warren Williams. We thank you for his life. We thank you for his gift. We thank you for even his struggle that allowed him to create and share you with us in an authentic way. I pray that this conversation will be as authentic as he was, and that it will draw us closer to you and to each other, bring comfort and bring peace. And may we leave this conversation better than we came. We love you. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's welcome Raymond Simons to the conversation.
Good afternoon.
Uncle Ray.
How are you? I'm doing great.
It's wonderful to see you. I appreciate you. This is a conversation of affirmation of generations. I wanted to start by saying thank you for who you are and for your contribution to so many things: music, the physical landscape of Bermuda and the Adventist Church, and so many other things, including your relationship with your beloved brother, Warren Williams. In a minute or less, Uncle Warren, I know you share in the documentary, but if you, Uncle Ray, excuse me, in a minute or less, Uncle Ray, if you could share with us just your initial connection to Uncle Warren and transition to Pine Forge Academy in about a minute or less. If you could just tell us about that journey, because I can imagine back then there weren't many students leaving Bermuda to go off to boarding school. So you all were probably maybe the first of a generation. How did that transition happen?
Okay, well, firstly, Warren and I, freshmen, we went to the same school. And then I transferred to Adventist Church School, and Warren stayed to the public system. And we occasionally we would bump into one another. Then we used to have a junior camp at the time, and that was the first time I actually got to sing with Warren. Actually, I didn't know anything about singing. I was just singing. Everyone knew Warren could sing. The Williams family could sing. And the guy, Darryl, says, Ray, where did you learn to sing baritone like that? I didn't know what baritone was. And right after that, maybe, I don't know, a year or later, I'm only about 16. Warren is a year under me. And he formed this group called the Rose of Sharon Quintet. Now, Leroy Dyer was our leader, and he taught us parts, and we sang all over the island. We were very good, I thought. But anyhow, then Warren got to Miss Musson, Nellie Musson. I don't know how she arranged it, but anyhow, she got Warren to go to Pine Forge. And then Warren came home. He told me about Pine Forge and what I come up to Pine Forge. I had been out of school a couple of years because at Bermuda Institute now, I only went as far as 10th grade, so I couldn't go any further.
Okay.
So and he says, why don't you go to Pine Forge? And so I applied, and this is how I got to go to Pine Forge. Was it an experience? Yes. I mean, it was sort of first for me. It was the first plane ride I had, just to fly to the States, and my eyes was all open. And when we finally got to Pine Forge, I had never seen anything like it. Well, I'm living in Bermuda, 21 square miles. And my area that I traveled in was probably Hamilton, which you would know, Somerset, occasionally St. George. That was it. Here I'm at the Pine Forge. Looking at Pine Forge, it was eye-opening to me. I mean, I had never seen anything like it.
Okay.
To live in a dormitory, that was completely something different,
Yeah. I love it, Uncle Ray. So what I love about this is I'm thinking about a couple of things. One, for our overseas audience who hasn't had the opportunity to visit Bermuda, Bermuda is 21 square miles long, right? About a mile and a half wide at its widest point. And so then Uncle Ray says that he primarily went to Hamilton and back. I believe if you lived in Southampton, Uncle Ray, then you're talking about maybe going, 7, 8, 10 miles, right?
And
you live in Chapel Hill Island, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then when you think about the influence of Miss Musson, this is pre-internet, this is faxing even, or emailing forms and things. So I don't know what took place that allowed even the information to be shared, but certainly God's hand has been on your life, Uncle Warren's life. And I've spent a little bit of time at Pine Forge. I visited there, I spoke once there, and I've seen the Pine Forge folks, how you all, I'm gonna say you all now, Uncle Ray, you all, because you're part of the group, how Pine Forge folks show up in a space, and I don't know if you all showed up at college days or alumni in their cardigans like your contemporaries do today, where they have the special jackets and the thing and the like, but Pine Forge folks have a confidence, and many illustrious alums have attended Pine Forge Academy, the Barry Blacks of the world and others. And we have a number of other alums from Pine Forge who are contemporaries of Uncle Warren. So at this time, we'd like to welcome them to the broadcast. And we thank you for joining us. And thank you, Uncle Ray, for teeing us up. We appreciate you and your words of wisdom. All right, we have some folks joining. Mr. George Sampson.
Yes.
All right, we have Pastor Humphrey there.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, coming to the stage, we have Elton Lester. These are some strong names. These are some powerful names coming to the stage. Come on, who else we got? Ooh, we got Cynthia Poole coming to the stage. Look at all this Black excellence. Hey, we got anybody else back there? We're gonna start here. How we doing? Is that everybody?
We have one more, Jackie and Patrick.
We got another. We gotta have another onion in there. We got Pastor Patrick O'Meara with us as well. Can you put your hands together in the chat and in the room, perhaps where you are, to celebrate our guests who are with us? We're so grateful. Whoa, we got a couple more as well. Jacqueline Brooks Winston. I look, she's got on the bottom, Pine Forge Academy class of 1962. All right, that's wonderful. So I see that they've all joined, and I think Uncle Ray hopefully will come back and stay with us. If he's not able to join us now, we'll bring him back. But I want to just check in real fast. And we did a check-in about, the fact that you're a Pine Forge alums. But let me just check to ensure that we have people who know Pine Forge. I've heard about J.H. Wagner Hall. Is that a thing? I'll just nod your head if I'm doing all right. G. Kimbrough Hall. I've heard about R. Handy Hall. Is this? Am I in the right place?
You're in the right place.
Right place.
All right. Okay. I would love to start with Mr. Sampson. And thank you again, Mr. Sampson, for being with us. We have a connection through your daughter, Anika Sampson, who is a soprano extraordinaire singer, and you have great musicians in your family, but I know your daughter, and thank you again for helping to bring this illustrious group of people together. Please, would you tell us, and again, if you could be succinct, we're all trying to be as succinct as we can, tell us about meeting Warren Williams and his influence from your perspective at Pine Forge Academy.
Yes, at Pine Forge Academy, when I was there and Warren was there, he cast a large shadow on campus. As we all know, Warren was physically a substantial man, and he was very strong. And we connected primarily around music. We had a quartet that Warren sang the lead most of the time. I was the first tenor. Elverton Mapp was the baritone. He's also from Bermuda.
Yeah, that name sounds well. The Maps that's the name of Bermuda. Yeah.
And Henry Fordham was our bass for a short period of time. When he did not return, we replaced him with a young man named Harold Hitch. But I remember that Warren was kind of a larger than life figure. He had this beautiful Irish tenor sounding voice coming from a person with a brown face. And so it made him somewhat unique in his musical approach. And
if one you give,
his enunciations and all of that were just so particular, and he was very concerned about everything being exactly right in the music. And our quartet, we enjoyed a little bit of popularity while on the campus. The other thing about him was that he was a very strong person. I never forget an event when the guys were all at the back of the dorm. We didn't have Handy Hall. That was before Handy Hall. That was what was our dorm called? Elton down the hill? I don't remember.
Jefferson Hall.
That's what it was. And so there was a weightlifting contest back there, and guys were throwing up weights, and little by little the weight would get too heavy, and when it was too heavy, the guys would drop off. And at the final competition, it ended up being Willie Thomas, who was also a big, strong guy with muscles, and Warren. And Warren, not only did Willie Thomas lifted his weight, and Warren reached down with that signature grin, that wide smile that he always had, no matter what. And he grabbed that weight and he just slung it up like it was nothing. And put it down. And of course, Warren, we dubbed him physically the strongest man on campus. I kept up with his career with the Warren-Airs. As a matter of fact, the male chorus I sang with the Brothers of Washington, D.C., the Warren-Airs had us come down to Bermuda. Before you were born, Doc, probably. And I believe it was 74, somewhere in that range. And we had a relationship with him even after we had been together at Pine Forge. But beautiful singer, seemingly always a positive person, always with that smile that you could not resist. The young ladies were all interested in Warren.
Yeah.
He was a handsome fellow. So, that's the impact that he had. I'll let the talk about that part.
We want to bring them in. I just want to point out a couple of things, especially as audience members may be joining the conversation, maybe miss some of the earlier parts of it. We have folks from Pine Forge Academy who are talking about the life and legacy of Warren Williams. And what I think is powerful is that what I hear you describing, Mr. Sampson, is a confluence of multiple spaces of Black excellence. When you talk about the smile, when you talk about him being a good-looking man and how he carried himself, or in the words of his daughter, his elocution, right? His pronunciation, his diction, and the British aspect. Like there's a combination of Bermuda and Sinky Bay and the community that he came from, and then it also being polished and proximate to folks like yourself and others who are on this call at Pine Forge. So I want to make sure that people are connecting dots, and that in this intergenerational conversation, we understand the significance of it. I want to say it up front, and I may say it again later. when I mentioned the names of the Anika Sampsons, for example, who's your daughter, who was one of the singers of the Aeolians,
Yes.
and when you think about the influence of a Warren Williams on or in proximity to Raymond Simons, who's the father of Owen Simons and Swanette Simons.
Yes.
Now you're talking about choirs at Oakwood, dynamic praise, and mentors. Listen to us now. To folks like Stephen Manders, who leads every week at the Oakwood University Church, and Breath of Life, where the music is and the ministry is touching 25,000 people per week. So it's not a stretch to suggest that work with Warren Williams weekly, daily is impacting Black Adventism around the world, but certainly in the United States through his mentors who have mentored. And so today we're grateful to bring together again the village behind the man. I'd love to go to one of our other guests, if you could, who are with us now, who are on the stage. Please, one of us, maybe let's go to Miss Poole or Miss Winston, or I'd like to bring in one of our ladies, if you could just share your thoughts. And again, if we can keep our comments to about a minute or so, we want to try to move along and get everyone's voices heard.
Okay, I was going to give just a little bit of that background. Miss Munson in 1959, the way it happened was the current principal was Dr. Ursel Watson. He came to Bermuda recruiting, and Miss Munson answered the call, and I believe she brought with her, it was like 13 others besides her daughter, LaLaurie, that showed up at school that August. But I remember Warren, I worked in the cafeteria, so I had an opportunity to interact with Warren every day. And he had, as George said, he had such a way about him. And he was wise enough. The matron, Mrs. Hardy, he called her Mama Hardy. So then, of course, every time it was mealtime or something, Warren always got something special or something extra. He could come in at any time and get something to eat. And you're right, George. The girls, they just swooned over Warren. And I remember that signature voice. We sang a song, Yonder, and he had the solo part in it. And I believe Waters Ripple and Flow was another one that we really enjoyed his voice. I don't ever recall him being upset. Never a time can I recall Warren ever being upset or in the midst of something that wasn't appropriate. Just a well-rounded, good guy.
I think he also had a job of stoking the furnace in the girls' dorm. Is that right?
He was the mailman. Yes.
Okay. Listen. Well, I have to admit, us Bermudians, when we go off to school and the like, I believe there's a rich legacy of enhancing the aesthetics, right? And so we're certainly grateful to have walked in his footsteps as well. I love that you mentioned the cafeteria. In the documentary, I think it may come up as well. Mama Hardy is mentioned, and so it sounds like he had a great relationship there. In fact, I think Uncle Raymond Simons, talks about the benefits of being connected to Uncle Warren and getting access to food because of her. So we'd love to continue those intersections. I do want to also acknowledge when you mentioned Mr. Sampson, I believe Brother Fordham, that again, if you're connected to the Adventist community, you know that these are names that are pretty prominent in our denomination. The Pucky Fordhams perhaps is maybe a child or grandchild, imagine, of that gentleman, or maybe a relative. But again, you're talking about families right across shores that have connected. And certainly, I'd love to also acknowledge in the room Pastor Humphrey, Pastor Lester, Pastor O'Meara, gentlemen there who also interacted with Mr. Williams at PFA. Perhaps let's go here to Pastor O'Meara, and then we'll go to Mr. Humphrey and Mr. Lester. Pastor O'Meara, for you, again, if you could keep it to about a minute or so, transitioning to Pine Forge Academy as a Bermudian, what was that like for you? And also in proximity to these beautiful people that are on the call with you. I heard how excited you were as you got together, and everybody kept calling your name, Pastor O'Meara. I got to bring Pastor O'Meara. Patrick, he's got to be on. So you also left a mark as an onion there. Tell us about your experience in proximity to Warren Williams at PFA.
Well, I've known Warren when I came into the church in 1959, as Ray said, that it was Nellie Mussum who influenced us for going to Pine Forge. I went in 1960, and that's when I really became acquainted with Warren, because I was only in the church for about a year before I went to Pine Forge. And we had a running joke. I had a running joke with Warren. He used to call me Smith Simons. I never asked him why he called me Smith Simons, but that was Warren. He was very jovial. I regarded Warren as the elder statesman of Pine Forge. He was well loved and well respected. As Cynthia said, that he was the mailman for the ladies, between the ladies and the young men. But I remember many a morning that Warren would be down in the room where the piano was, and he would be practicing his voice, and that really gave me, how he was very dedicated to his talent and his gift.
Yes.
At one point during my sojourn at Pine Forge, Warren used to keep the furnace in the school building going. And at my senior year, he told me to take it over because he couldn't handle it anymore. So I became the one who went up to the school building to stoke the furnace to keep it warm, so that when the students and the teachers came into the building, it was warm.
Yes.
So
I love it. I love it.
Warren has always been one whom he was strong, but he was also so well-rounded.
Okay.
He was strong, but he was also given that meekness, like Moses, strong but meek at the same time.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate you, Pastor Myra, and your influence in his journey, and you sharing a bit of that experience with us. Mr. Lester, if you could share with us, please. We'd love to hear your thoughts on your experience with Warren Williams at Pine Forge Academy.
Well, I'm gonna be the only one that probably adheres to the 1 minute, but mainly,
That's your attorney.
mainly,
You're a lawyer.
when I think of Warren, I remember how, for some reason, our class used to always get abused physically. And so when Warren came up, and in fact, Warren and some of the other guys from Bermuda came up, that all changed. No one ever messed with us around Warren, and we tried to stay around Warren all the time. I sang with Warren in the choir also. I sang with Warren in another group. The juniors had a group. And my memory of Warren was that he was, just as someone has said, just such a gentle giant. And in fact, one of the things that just bothered me even to this day is that as I would go to Bermuda, and I went to Bermuda almost all the time, I could never see Warren. Everyone told me that Warren wasn't doing well, and it just bothered me that I could never see Warren when I went to Bermuda, because he was a person of influence in our class. As Patrick said, very dominant in our class. He was just a good man. And so that's particularly, as I started off, that is my Warren Williams experience.
Oh, that's powerful. We appreciate you sharing that. Sounds like he was no pushover. That's another thing about Bermudians. My grandmother, who's a member of the Warrenaires, she would tell you we're sweet and you smile, but don't mess with us.
Don't scalap.
So that sounds. Yeah, he's on brand. Mr. Humphrey, Pastor Humphrey, are you able to? Can we hear you now? Would love if you could, in about a minute or so, tell us about your experience with Warren Williams, if you're able.
It's even worse.
Yeah.
Go to sister. Go to Jackie. Go to Jackie Brooks Winston. Come back to him.
All right, we're gonna Miss Brooks Winston. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, I'm glad to share just a little bit I can. I came to Pine Forge because my father was the principal, and it was an exciting adventure for me to get to meet so many people from Bermuda, and most of them were in my graduating class. Everyone except Cynthia and George were in our class. But the thing about Warren is I had never heard a young adult, well, he was a young, older teenager at that time. I'd never heard one with that beautiful singing voice. His pitch was good. He did an outstanding job of interpreting the music, and I love that Mr. Anthony used him for solos. He was the conductor of the choir, Academy Choir at that time. And just to piggyback on what everyone has said, you have an indication of his character at the school, because we respected him and he seemed to respect us. Very friendly, kind person. I remember him as in that way. And I hate that through the years we lost contact. Even when we've gone to Bermuda, we have not had an opportunity to see him. But Warren, to me, was always a gentleman and quite an outstanding singer.
Yeah. Amen.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you sharing that.
For context, Jacqueline is the daughter of Elder Charles L. Brooks, a name you may not know because you're young, but her father was quite a singer and recorded in the Adventist Church. He was well known throughout the denomination and outside of that for his beautiful singing voice.
Beautiful. That's amazing. I don't know if there's any connection as well to C.D. Brooks's as well. I don't know, but
people always thought, but no, Charles L.
No,
he was the principal at
the
time I graduated. Yeah,
love it. Thank you for sharing that history and that context.
Yes.
Love it, Pastor Humphrey. We want to try one more time, if possible, just to hear you. We'd love to hear your voice.
Warren was I took the place in the quartet in the senior year.
That's good.
We were the senior quartet. It was Warren, LaRue Robinson, Elberton Mapp, and myself. And just singing with Warren is something to behold. A beautiful bel canto, tenor voice, sound like Mary Alonzo or someone.
Right.
And he had all the diction because of the British. The British's diction was British. And so it was a wonderful experience just singing with him. I recall he would stoke the furnace fire. He would go up before day and put the coal in the fire. We were on coal stoves, and I remember that, and I remember him always having something. As Cynthia said, someone said, coming back from Mama Hardy. Mama Hardy would load up.
Warren.
Can they hear?
Yeah, we can hear you. We have to bring it to a conclusion. We can hear you though.
Okay. I'm gonna wrap it up. But I was sorry to hear of the loss of Warren. I have been singing that song Yonder Yonder myself, the tenor part. Yeah. But that was the song that really thrilled us as choir members because we backed up.
Yeah.
Warren was singing the lead and we were backing him up, and it was a wonderful experience. And I remember we went to Andrews University once. I'm going to wrap it up. My grandson is telling me to wrap it up.
Grandson's got to get on the keys for you. Play the appeal song, preacher. I know.
Yeah, just this one sentence.
Yes, sir.
And we were singing before the Andrews University student body and so forth. And there we were with these tattered and torn robes, hymns coming out, and so forth. But when we opened our mouths and sang Yonder, Yonder, so long ago, it was a wonderful experience. But that's what I remember about Warren and other things. But I say to the family, God bless you, and we'll meet him around the throne of God in that great day. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. We appreciate you sharing that, and thank you to our Pine Forge community who have joined us. If you would stay with us backstage, I think Uncle Ray is also close by. If we could bring Raymond Simons back, I want to transition between the Bermuda Pine Forge conversation this way. If we could bring Raymond Simons in, we'd love to keep the Pine Forge folks in the room if possible, so we can see their faces, a couple of them. Uncle Ray, and I don't know if how you can do this, Uncle Ray, but I know this story probably takes more than a minute or a minute and a half, but you can't have a conversation like this without a good story, Uncle Ray. And in talking to you in our pre-production conversation, apparently there's a story that maybe no one else has heard about Warren Williams at Pine Forge Academy, that today is the day that it gets shared with the audience. So tell us about what happens when you take a Bermudian boy out of the island and you can't take the island out of the boy. Tell us about the story, if you could, briefly, maybe in about a minute and a half, if possible.
This story really is, I'm glad I would say, justify the means, I suppose. But this story, probably, in the years of Pine Forge, I don't know if anyone ever done what Warren and I done. As we all know, that it was called the River Manatoni. But one day, Warren and I walked down to where the bridge was, and we saw this fish. But me, just love fish. Now, it is in March. It's cold. The water is very cold. Now, I don't know, Warren said to me, or I said to Warren, let's try to catch these fish. Now, we had no line. Maybe we could net them. So we went back, because I knew where some old stuff was, found a sheet. And we decided to net these fish. Now, everybody knows you can't net fish with a sheet. Because we went into the water, and the water was cold. And put the sheet down, and of course it's in March, and the River Manatoni has normally it's just a little like a little ripple of water. And the water was about, I would say, maybe knee deep. And the current is strong. We put the sheets down, trying to net these fish. Now, we hadn't thought about who's going to cook the fish. We saw fish. We wanted some fish to eat because we hadn't eaten fish since we left Bermuda. And of course, the current, we didn't put any holes in the sheet. Of course, we are trying to hold that fish with a sheet. And what do you think happened? Warren lost his balance. And what do you think? Warren lost his balance. And when he came up, he must have been about 8 to 10 feet from me because the current was pushing him. If the water had been higher, I don't know what would have happened. We could have lost Warren that day. Now, when he came up, he was shaking because the water was cold.
Freezing.
Now, how did we get back to the dormitory? Warren is soaking wet, and we said, "Look, for starters, I'll go ahead of you and I'll let you know. I'll tell you when to come." Just got him back to the dormitory. We were out that day. We would never tell no one no one that we tried to net fish with a sheep in the Mediterranean. I mean, and it was cold. I mean, when I say cold, it's in March. I mean, you know, in March, the grass is going out and the water is running in the river. We tried to net these fish. We would never tell no one whatever happened. This is the first time or second
That's a
time
good story.
I love it.
I told anybody about the story.
Confessions of the brothers behind the man.
Yeah.
The water had been deeper. It probably could. I don't know what could have happened. But we said, okay,
Yeah.
we will keep this story. We will take the story to our grave. Warner's gone now, so I can. We tried to net these fish with a sheep.
Wow.
I had seen guys netting fish in Bermuda, but that was one of the greatest experiences, or the worst experience I had at Pine Forge. You know,
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really something.
Well,
We won't tell
certainly
anybody.
A number of intersections.
Yeah, we won't.
Yeah, it's glory is safe with us.
There were a lot of things that we done, and a lot of stuff that I was always appeared to be very innocent, done what I had to do, be where I had to be, but most of the stuff Warren and I done together. I will take.
Okay.
I will take that part to my grave.
Listen, you all were probably better fishers of men for Christ, right? You know, so the fishing of the sheep didn't work out, but through the music, through the influences of all of you on this call, from lawyers and educators and pastors and civil leaders, musicians, each of you, and the Pine Forge Academy community, thank you for stewarding the gift that is Warren Williams and the legacy of your institution. We have great respect for Pine Forge Academy and appreciate you joining us. And we hope that this portion of the conversation has been a blessing and a reconnecting point. And we hope that you all get together perhaps at another time so that all of your class and community can continue to share. At this time, we want to transition. And Uncle Ray has helped us in some regards by telling that story. You know, if you're from Sinky Bay, you know, you can't blame Uncle Warren for wanting to catch some fish, right? I mean, fishing and being on the rocks and the water is a part of the Bermuda experience. Perhaps not the best idea to do it at Pine Forge, but we're grateful that after his Pine Forge educational experience, while he could have gone anywhere in the world, perhaps, and used his gift around the world, and many have suggested if he would have been world renowned as far as people knowing about his gift, he chose to return back to Bermuda. And in doing so, left a significant and indelible mark on the music community in Bermuda. In fact, one of the things I learned in our preparation for this call was that in going to Pine Forge, you know, there were musical opportunities and a liberatory experience from a worship perspective that was perhaps a little different from Bermuda. And when he came back to his local church at times in the community, there was pushback even around singing, I believe, certain songs, whether Negro spirituals and the like, and the Warreneers and the pioneering groups that he led, in many regards, were cutting edge. And so you learn in our portion of our conversation here about a man who led many groups, sang in a number of groups, but a man who was passionate about music and also passionate about his family. So at this time, we'd love to welcome some fellow onions to the conversation. Thank you for being with us and helping us to contextualize the village behind the man. Joining us, we have Craig Williams, son of Warren Williams. We have Mr. Wayne Watson, who's joined us all the way from London. So it's probably about 10 p.m. over there. So I think that speaks to the influence of Warren Williams in his life. Pastor Craig Williams is joining us from Bahamas. So this is certainly a international conversation. And then we have Dennis and Marva Jean, Sister Gigi O'Brien, who are joining us. And the term that they have come up with for their engagements, their passionate following of Uncle Warren is, talk to us, O'Brien family.
Enthusiasts. Devotees, enthusiasts.
Devotees and enthusiasts, right? So yeah. I guess back in the day, you know, if he had followers on social media, you were more than followers. You were enthusiasts. You were devoted. You would retweet or share, right? All the things that he was posting, right? If this was a different day and age, he had social media, right?
Yeah. Oh yes, for sure.
I love it. Let's start if we could. We'd love to start if we could with the O'Brien family. Thank you for being with us. You all, have a special connection to Warren Williams, and we would love to just center your voice, if you could, by sharing with us what he has meant to you musically, but beyond. And if you could keep it to maybe about a minute or so each, that will allow us to hopefully move the conversation. I know that could be a little tough, but if you could, succinctly, if you could share with us the influence that he's had on your journey.
Okay, so to a young Dennis and Marvin Jean or Gigi, he was like for the best singer you could ever have in the world. We had never heard a voice like that. Now, our family, we sang, but we had never heard that type of voice. And the only place where we heard this voice was on a Dwayne record, we call it Dwayne, but it was perfection. And we used to imitate, that's the best form of flattery. We used to imitate him and the Harmony Four. So that was the group we first heard, was the Harmony Four. My father also had records from the Warreners, but we had heard the Harmony Fours and we were just blown away. And so once, Uncle Tread, Warren, Eugene, Lloyd Holder, and Louis Thomas, the great baritone, voices beautiful on their own, but oh my gosh, together was just a symphony. And Warren's voice was out of this world. So I think that when we're talking about some things that we remember about, when we're younger, as a result of Warren's, the Harmony Four, we used to sing around the neighborhood. We grew up in Loyal Hill. And we used to sing and harmonize outside. And all the children, we have some friends who never heard the album, but know the songs because we used to sing. And then we were, volunteered to sing at the MV. That's what they used to call them back then, missionary volunteer. Then we went on, we sang a tent meeting, a couple of tent meetings actually. Our first entry was Dennis singing Angels by Uncle Tread. And then, Bringing Up the Rear. Yeah, you know that song. And then Bringing Up the Rear would be, we loved, at home we loved Motherless Child, but out we would sing Angels, We'll Try to Make It Into Heaven, those kind of things. And one of the things that I want to show how, like for me, my brother will speak about that later, but one of the biggest things for me was one year he came there was a knock on the door, it was Christmas time, and it was time of carolers. And in walked Uncle Tread, Eugene, Richardson, and all the Harmony Four just walked in with Warren Williams. Like, I lost my ever-loving mind. I thought Michael Jackson had come into the house. Let's go. And wait till everybody hears that he is in the house. And he started to sing, and I just inched up. We had on pajamas. I could care less. It was in the kitchen, and the kitchen was the stage. And I just one of the biggest things that was one of the things I still remember today. And I think my brother went on to sing, and as you talked about how the influence was, well, he will tell you more about that. But I just wanted to say that my singing when I was singing, and I know some of these Craig might have known, you might know, but I used to sing a long time ago. But the biggest influence for me was Warren Williams, and the Harmony Four, and the Warreners. But they would never have me. So there we go.
Love it. I love to hear, you said you're an enthusiast and a devotee. We love to hear your enthusiasm, right? And in your generation, your era, I mean, he was a star, right, in Bermuda. And so thank you for the next generation to know that, because sometimes, folks sort of move on to contemporary folks, but he certainly impacted you and we can feel it. Brother Dennis O'Brien, we'd love to hear from you.
As my sister said, when we were young, we first heard the Harmony Four by listening to the records. Every Sunday we used to have to clean. We had chores. We had to clean our home, and so we had thrown the records And that record now, probably all the grooves have been like clean. It's probably just flat. You probably don't hear the music on it because we played it so much. But we got to learn these songs, and what's important is we got to learn harmony. What stood out in these songs is the fact that there was a voice on there that it was like what they said earlier. It was operatic. It was clean. And then the person used to roll their R's. I was a little boy, but I said, I don't know anyone that rolls an R when they sing.
Yeah.
Like once with that, that used to, it was something that just stuck out, but it was very unique. And in that, what drew me also was the harmony, just the clean harmony. Yeah. And I think from that time on, it set a standard for the type of music I like to hear. And I always was drawn toward harmony. That's why I like the Warriors. But the Harmony 4 in particular was like, it was, for me, when I was small, it was the Jackson 5 and then the Harmony.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And since throughout my life, I just, I always enjoyed singing and music. Never really sang much most of the time, but I just enjoyed music. In 2010, I actually was asked to train some young boys to sing. And so for 6 years, we started a group called In Harmony. And right now, these were like 10 and 11 at the time. These boys are now like 25 and 26, most of them. And one of them, the youngest one, he might be about 21 now, Jay. And is actually related to Warren. I didn't even know that. He's related to him. Wow. And so he used to sing a lead. He used to sing a lead in a couple of these songs that we had. But I had him sing a few of the Harmony 4 songs. One of the first songs they ever sang was Blessed Jesus. He wrote that song, I think, for his son and Edwin. And I had the group was 4. I split up into 4 parts and had these guys sing that song. And after that, I think we sang 2 other Harmony 4 songs. And so what I think comes from this all is the fact that although these songs were written and sung probably back in the early 60s, late 50s, or early in the early 60s, up until 2016, we had young men singing these songs.
I love it.
They might not know the man personally, but they would definitely know his songs. Music.
Well, I love you sharing that for multiple reasons. I had the opportunity recently to attend the 50th anniversary of the Breath of Life ministry, where the Breath of Life quartet was mentioned as well, and they were talking about songs that they sang, and thinking about you mentioned In Harmony, which I remember those guys. I was a part of Diamonds in the Rough quintet back in the day. I think about In His Image. They part of In His Image, right? The multiple male groups in the Adventist Church over the years that were influenced by the Harmony 4 directly or indirectly cannot be understated or cannot be overstated, right? And so, I love you sharing that, and that's not minimized. Your singing gift. I appreciate listening to you and your ministry, Brother O'Brien. So thank you for that. I think it's a lovely segue. In fact, we've talked a lot. But I know that our producer is ready to share with us a little something from the airways that will help us to ground the sound of the Harmony 4. Let's listen in to a little clip of Perfection.
I'll be there. If I ever reach perfection,
Yeah, that's awesome. Brother Watson, I want to bring you in as we just transition the song. We appreciate you. I don't know about you, but I'm more of a second tenor, probably baritone. But I'm a nephew, a great nephew of Barry Richardson. So you got to try the bass a little bit in there. You know what I mean? Did you feel that bass, Brother Watson? You can handle it, right? And in fact, as I was listening to that song, that also made me think about Milky White Way. You know what I mean? When he walk and wherever, right? So there's so many songs, the sound. But before we even talk about the musicology, I actually, between Pastor Craig and Brother Watson, I think that the title of the song, Perfection, and the lyrics and the struggle, Warren Williams, our own struggles as men, as Christians, I think is also something that probably endears us to him. And so if one of you can just share briefly, when you think about not just the sound of the group, but the lyrics of a song that's saying, if I ever reach perfection, and we know that our perfection is in Christ, we struggle, and he struggled at times. Pastor Craig, you mentioned that to me, all right? And we struggle at times. Help us to connect those dots, Brother Watson, Pastor Craig, about not just the sound of the song, but the sound of the soul of a man in our struggle, in our gift, and in trying to live a life that honors God. Let's go with our Brother Watson first.
Thank you for the opportunity. The best way that I could speak to that is, Warren was a major influence in my life. And, I knew Warren, matter of fact, through Craig, from way back Heron Bay days. I got to know Craig, and moving forward, when I was 16, I joined the church. And along the way, I became a Warreneer. As a matter of fact, I spent 30 plus years in the Warreneers. To be honest with you, my relationship with the Warreneer family, and in particular with Warren, perfection, that's all I could possibly say in regards to my communications, my relationship. I did not see anything. I know I heard of a lot of things, but I always took the good in what Warren had to share. His influence over my life was such an amazing experience for me. I could only speak good of Warren, and I've known through the entire tenure of my Warreneer experience, Warren always saw the good in me. Warren always tried to pull out the best in me. Matter of fact, I became a sound engineer because of Warren. Warren had a little PB amplifier and speakers, 2 speakers that he used to take everywhere with him. He was a major part of the Kelly Zool. Do you remember the Kelly Zool Mother's Day concerts? Well, Kelly Zool used to ask Warren every year to be the sound engineer, and Warren used to take me with him. And he used to pull out his equipment, and he used to have a little small cassette on top of his equipment, to play the soundtracks and what have you. And because of that, my experience just through the years, his interaction with me, Warren was so good to me. He made me become a part of the family just through the love that he had for me and the love that I had for him. And this transcended beyond just the Warreneers. Warren had me at his house for Christmas to join his family. So when you say about perfection, and I know that he went through his own personal struggles, but I always saw the best in what Warren had to offer just through his life and his experiences that he has taught me through the life that he had led. And I could honestly say that because of the presence and because of the familiarity that I've had in my life, being a part of that family has made me a better person. And I truly, truly miss the thought of Warren not being with us anymore. He was an awesome person, and I'm appreciative to Warren for everything that he has done. And Craig, you have my condolences. I haven't seen you in a while, my brother. It's been a while. To you and the larger part of the family, you do have my condolences. I cannot say enough about Warren, to be totally honest with you. And there are things that we shared in person. You know, when Warren wanted to help to develop my voice, you know, he said to me, Carlton, I'm going to take you down to the seaside. And why, Warren? Why are you going to take me down to the seaside? Because I want you to sing in open air. I want you to be able to fully grasp the full potential of your voice. And he used to take me down to Horseshoe Bay, and he used to give me allocutions, and we just go through the whole nine. And I tell you, I just cannot say enough about Warren. He was an amazing, amazing person, and I thank him for that.
We appreciate you, and we thank you for sharing a bit of your journey, your testimony. And I think it's, as we transition to you, Pastor Craig, and we'll plan to bring your family on in a second as well. I know in our conversations you've highlighted the struggle, and I want to make sure that even as folks watch this, that we're not suggesting that there's an expectation that we can be perfect, right? In our own strength, right? I think Uncle Warren's journey was reflection that, like us, he wasn't, right? But you know, his strength is made perfect in our weakness. And so I think it's also about Uncle Warren's journey and persistence in seeking Christ and wrestling with some of the things that he wrestled with at times that also helped him to create. But I think it also helped him to connect. If I can just sort of summarize some things I've heard from your family as he wrote music, et cetera. So if you could just help us to sort of make sense briefly, if you could, and we're going to bring your family in. I know you'll be sharing it other times, but is there anything that you've heard in this conversation that you would like to ground from the perspective of the son of Warren Williams?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, it's a lot, and I'll try to be quick, of course. First of all, I want to say to Brother Wayne, I wish he would have been first. I went first because I got to make it through this now. I want to say that I love you, and you're my brother, and I'm just proud of you, all that you have achieved in your life. And so, Brother Ty, I will say this to you. I think about that song, 10,000 Joys Cannot Explain How Much You Mean to Me, referring to Christ, but that's how I feel about my father. My mother may have been the stabilizer of the family, but my spirituality, right, and my spiritual journey, a large portion of it I owe to my father. Yes, my mother also, right? And I will say this, the issue of brokenness, I'm a product of brokenness. We all are products of brokenness in a sense, right? So my father's greatest contribution to music is out of brokenness, right? My father lost his mother as a young child, right? And I'm being very honest with you guys, all his music, a motherless child. When I was a young child, I used to go downstairs and look through a people, and I told Dr. Ty about this, and I used to look through the people and see my father smoking cigarettes and drinking a glass of beer and crying because he never had a real relationship with his mother because she passed at a very young age. And he's an old man now, still crying for the nurture and the love of a mother that was lost. And that, out of that brokenness came this greatness. Out of his brokenness came my love for ministry. I told you also how, he would take me all around early morning soup kitchen. My father built a family altar room in the house. They made a glass stained window, and he took his children there every morning, 7 o'clock before school, to pray. And his prayer was for all his children, all his daughters, and myself as the only son, is, Lord, save my children. So I owe my ministry, me becoming a pastor, even as an occupational therapist, to help people, to my father, right? And so I could say a lot, Ty, so I'll end there. But to say, this is a man, he may have been broken, he may have struggled. But as Paul would say, right, that he hasn't arrived there yet in his journey. And Paul died after 30 years, and he never reached perfection. So we need to get that into perspective and understand that brokenness is what brings us closer to Christ.
Well, we're grateful that the next time, by God's grace, that Uncle Warren opens his eyes, he will experience perfection. And we're grateful for the perfect sacrifice of Christ. We're grateful that that God uses our brokenness. And for any person that's watching this, that's listening to this, we want to make sure you know that the same God that carried Uncle Warren through the loss of his mother, through his struggles, can carry you. And I think that's something we don't often talk about as men in particular. Our families have great complexity. And so I just hope and pray that as you've also listened to the struggle, that you also hear the God of the struggle, and that our perfection is in Christ. And so we're saved by grace through faith. So thank you to each of you for being a part of this segment.
I just want to say thank you to Craig, to Joel, to that family. Thank you for giving us, allowing us to enjoy your father. Thank you. So many people have benefited from that. He's a great man in our eyes.
Amen. Brother O'Brien, anything briefly as well?
I just want to give my condolences to all of his loved ones. We've lost our parents, so I know it's not easy losing a parent. So we just want to extend our condolences and just pray that you guys do have the peace that you need, and that God will provide everything you need in your time, because only He knows what you will need when you need it.
Yeah. Brother Watson, any final thought, 20 seconds or so?
Just like to say thank you for giving me. Sorry, I'm just getting over the flu, so excuse my choppy voice. But thank you for this opportunity, for allowing me to be a part of this. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you to each of you. There's therefore now no condemnation to them that are in Christ. And so I'm grateful also, Pastor Craig, that there's no shame, right? Mm-hmm. That struggle also may be challenging, but I just also hope that someone who listens to this will feel inclined, even as you reflect on the music and this weekend on Uncle Warren's life, that you will be encouraged to know that God still loves you as well. So thank you to each of you from Bermuda there, helping us to tee up the documentary, The Voice. The man behind the voice. And I think it'll be appropriate in true Bermudian fashion to say the man or the voice, the man behind the voice, right? You got to use that W, right? If you got a real Sinky Bay connection, I'm sure some of you will understand that. And we're so grateful to have you a part of this conversation thus far. We're moving towards the end now and transitioning. I want to make sure that we can bring in Warren Williams' family, his children, who will be joining us for this final portion of our conversation. And just want to make sure that we can acknowledge you, and hopefully that you can feel the love from those who have joined the call from across the world, from London, England. Folks stayed up, in London where it's 10:32 at night. Folks, obviously, from across the United States, from his Pine Forge Academy community. And we want to acknowledge as well from the United States, his daughter, Laurel Arthur and Warrenette Ross, join us from the United States. Thank you for being here. And Joel and Robin Williams, who I believe are in Bermuda together there. And then Craig Williams, Pastor Craig Williams, who's joined us from Bahamas. Williams family, I think you heard it well from the O'Briens. This conversation is a thank you for sharing your dad with us. And we didn't want to end the conversation without giving you an opportunity to briefly share anything that will be helpful for us as an audience, not just to reflect on your dad, but also the documentary that the audience is about to watch. If we can maybe start with, how about if we go to, I'm going to start with Robin, if we can. Robin, if that's okay, I'd love to come to you. I know you've traveled from the Bay Area, but anything that you'd like to share, we share the space in the San Francisco, Oakland area here. And I know, again, on behalf of our family, we extend our condolences. But just anything that you heard as you were in the green room listening that you would like to share, or anything that just briefly you'd like to share on behalf of your family.
Some of those stories I had not heard before, and they're actually really funny. And I didn't really realize the influence that he had on so many people, I would say. But I think for me, I could speak of California when he used to come to Atlanta when we were in Atlanta. Then he came to California to spend time with the children and stuff, and how he really loved his grandchildren. So he'll travel by train because he didn't like to fly, and they'll go to northern route all the way across North United States to get to California. And once we're there, we'll have a great time and everything. So I think my children are really gonna miss him and miss the fact that he won't be out looking at the chickens or picking from the little garden that we have, or telling them stories. Sometimes it was too much information. I had to tell him, could you stop, please? Because too much information. So, but he used to talk about boys with the girls and stuff. Too much information, Dad. Like, pull back. But we had such a wonderful time with him, and it's gonna be a great miss for the California crew, I would say. But it's nice to hear that he had a positive effect on so many people. So it's just good to hear.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We appreciate you sharing. Love to come back across the shores to the U.S. to Sister Laurel Arthur. Would love to hear from you, and then we'll tee up Warren at Ross next, if that's all right for you all.
So I'll say it's Laurel Arthur, and I would say I always like to correct that, but anyway, I would always say that with my dad, they ended the theme on the other side, ironically, with struggle. And we were talking about the things that dad had. And so I would say that my experiences with my dad were sort of, different from everybody else's because I was away. I didn't get a chance to enjoy all of the beauty and all of the things that were talked about. But through that struggle, I was able to rise, and I was able to formulate an experience with my father. Through over the years, we left Bermuda when we were little, and over the years, I had opportunities to, there was always an open house and always something exciting that returning to Bermuda we would see. My children had an opportunity to share time at the home. Not just my children, but my family, my extended family, my friend from high school, came to Bermuda with me, and we got a lot of chances to spend time with my dad there. They, like I said, it was always an open house. And so despite the separation, I sort of made it so that relationship existed. And our relationship was different because it was distant. It was a distant relationship, and so that's a struggle. That was a struggle. But like I said, out of it all came, positivity, and out of it all came, like my children, they did get an opportunity to share in some of that excitement. And for me, the one thing that take away from me is my dad. That whole melodious, his voice is legendary, and I just see it in his children. I see it in my grandchildren, and every time I see that, it's just something that it constantly comes up to me. Oh gosh, you got it honestly. You got it honestly. You got it honestly, and it's an exciting thing to experience.
We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing, Ms. Arthur. Thank you so much for being with us today. So, Joelle, we have spent a good bit of time dialoguing over the last couple of days, communicating about this experience, which you have curated. It's just your vision, right? And so I just want to, also give you your flowers and acknowledge your creative genius and how, like your siblings, you reflect a particular aspect of Uncle Warren. You obviously had a vision for what this would be, but you've also now heard and taken in some of the things that folks have shared. What's on your heart that would be helpful also for the listening audience, the watching audience today, also as they prepare to watch the documentary that you produced?
That's a loaded question. I think what spawned most of the idea around this docu is that I didn't want him to leave the earth with his story still inside of him. I felt that, and I guess what started it for me was I heard Dale Butler did a book on Bermudian musicians and how music evolved and, popular singers in the day. And I looked through in the gospel section and I didn't see Warren Williams. And I knew that it was up to us to tell his story, because I don't think that he would have the capacity to tell it. And I know that, that's what God has given me the gifting to do, because I'm a storyteller, which I got from him. Robin and I always reflect on how he used to tell us stories and Bible stories every time he traveled. And he would tell us stories, and now we are obligated to tell his story. And I knew that I wanted to tell it before he left this earth, so he would be able to see it and appreciate it and know that he was appreciated for what he did, because he sacrificed his whole life to music and to the church. And I think as he got older, I wanted him to know that he was appreciated for all that he did for not only Bermuda, but for our children, our family. And as you talked about how it made its ripple effect to the world. So I wanted that story. But as I told you, and I tell others, is that, and Craig had mentioned it, that his music comes from his pain, right? He longed for his mother, even 80 years old. I remember him taking us to the graveyards when we were younger to visit his mom, and he'll cry for his mom. So I knew that I wanted to be able to share that story with the world, because it's a story that deserves to be told. And even his story and his siblings' story, because they all share the same story, right? And a lot of this project, Uncle Morty, his brother, was able to give me a lot of the history. The time of recording that was not necessarily able to express it for camera. So Uncle Morty was able to be his voice. And I'm just glad that I was able to see the expression on his face when he was able to view it. So that was great for me.
Mr. Producer, if you could just help us out real fast, we'd love to if you could play just a little bit of the song that we have there from the Warriors. I just want to make sure that folks can also hear the Warriors. It's a song entitled "Let Me Fly." And when I think about, Uncle Warren and the creative that he was, and a man who wanted to be free, even as I'm thinking about his journey, there's lyrics now in the title of that song hit different in reflection today. So let's just play a little bit of that we can insert his voice.
Down yonder in the middle of the field, angel working on the chariot wheel. Not so particular about the chariot wheel, just want to see how the chariot feel. Oh, let me fly, oh, let me fly. I want to let me fly to my Zion, Lord, Lord. Oh, let me fly, oh, let me fly. Fly to Mount Zion, Lord, Lord. I heard such rumbling in the sky, thought my Lord was passing by. It was a good old chariot drawing nigh. I'm gonna shock the earth, swept the sky. Oh, let me fly, let me fly, let me fly, let me fly. Won't you let me fly to Mount Zion, Lord? To Mount Zion, Lord, Lord. I want to see you tonight, oh Lord. Oh, won't you let me fly to Mount Zion, Lord, Lord. I want to see you tonight, oh Lord. Oh, won't you let me fly to Mount Zion, Lord, Lord. Oh, let me fly, let me fly, oh, let me fly, let me fly. Oh, won't you let me fly to Mount Zion, Lord, Lord, Lord. Oh, let me fly.
Yeah, come on. Put your hands together in the chat, wherever you are in the audience. The world-renowned Warriors. And as I was listening to them, I heard the aliens living in there. You heard the key change. Come on, dude. do little syncopation, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, beautiful stuff. And we are about to transition to a conclusion. I believe we have one more guest that we're seeking to bring in even now. And Joelle, I know you have worked hard, and we want to just celebrate you if we can, and just hoping that we can have something for you. We have the Rosses back with us, and we'd love to also bring on our additional guests if possible. The guest is still there. But Ms. Ross, thank you. Hopefully you can hear us. I believe we have a guest that may be able to join us. Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes, Ms. Ross. So here's the story. We got one more guest, and you see Joelle, they're getting excited because as the story goes, when she was telling me about meeting this superstar actor that we were trying to reach, a Pine Forge alum. Back in the day, apparently she shook his hand and didn't wash her hand for days, family. That's how the story goes. And we've been great. We've been pulling it from her. We've been hanging out backstage. Mr. Clifton Davis, thank you for joining us. We'd love for you to just share your thoughts to the family and any brief memories you have of Warren Williams, your friend from Pine Forge Academy.
Well, first of all, please accept my condolences along with those of others at the loss of an amazing human being, Warren Williams, and to whom he is a father, a brother, a colleague, a fellow musician, a wonderful man. I knew him just those years at Pine Forge. I did run into him when I came to visit and met Joelle when she was a little girl. When I came down to speak for, I think, a Labor Day something. Anyway, Warren was always kind to me. I was a young boy. He was a few years older, but he was always kind. He had that understanding of what a young man was going through, coming to Pine Forge, his first time in an independent living kind of situation. And for a time, we were even roommates. And he helped show me the ropes. I remember that Warren had, first of all, he had one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard. And it continued, I see, throughout his life. God bless him for the way he used that gift that God gave him to write music, to glorify the Lord, and to dedicate his life to that kind of music. He taught me the ropes, as it were, while I was at Pine Forge. And I remember the thing I remember most about Warren Williams was how strong that brother was. I mean, people would lift weights in the back, but nobody could lift weights like Warren. Warren would, he'd take 100 pounds easily in one hand and do multiple exercises up and down. But more than that, Warren would take 200 pounds into one hand and move it up and down. I could not believe this guy was so strong. And for all the strength that he embodied and all of the fear that he put into other young men, he was just that kind. He was that nice. And his voice bespoke that wonderfulness of him. He was genuine about his love for the Lord. You could tell students at Pine Forge back in 1959, 60 were either, a lot of them were hoodlums from the city. Their parents had taken them out of public school because they couldn't get along and sent them to Pine Forge to help give them some discipline. Well, let me tell you, one of the people who made the most out of every moment was Warren Williams, because he embraced all these young people and understood their drives, and he had insight beyond his years even then, and he was a little older. So I thank God for what he did for me and for the music that he inspired. I, of course, spend my life doing some music and entertainment. I'm currently I'm currently filming a new soap opera for CBS, and it premieres next month. But I came to just say God bless you all. I wish I could be a part of the services. I'm glad to be able to say a few words about a wonderful human being who showed kindness to me to such an extent that I remember it 60 years later.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for making space in your calendar to be with us. I know it means a lot to the family. And family, I'm sure you will express your appreciation to him as well. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Yes.
I just found out that you were his roommate. I didn't know that all these years. So, you know, I just want to thank you. Yes, it was me when you shook my hand this many years ago. I was like, I'm never washing my hand, never. So now I need to be on stage in the soap opera. I'm ready. But thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
God bless you. Take care, Mr. Davis. Thank you so much. We want to give a great space for Ms. Warnett and Preston Ross to share. We decided you had a little bit of a connectivity challenge, but we wanted to just hear your voice briefly, and then we're going to close out. But thank you so much for being there. You're looking quite smooth there. I was saying in your jacket before you headed out, Mr. Ross. Just want to make sure we can hear you, both of your voices.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hi.
I'm gonna go before Warren.
Oh,
I just gotta say we big time because we on before Clifton Davis. After Clifton Davis, yo. Come on, man. Clifton Davis.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay, well, she gonna let me go. Well, of course, I didn't meet Captain Warren until we got married. So he was at our wedding, of course, and he sung. And the speed time up a little bit, probably a few years later, after we were married. For some reason, I called him, and I was like, Pop, it's this keyboard I want. And if you get this keyboard for me, I will do some tracks for your group. And that'll pay for the keyboard for what you did. So he got it for me. And I did probably like 2 or 3 tracks at that time, around that time, which was like 94, 95. And to change the subject, he started calling me Captain. I never heard Captain. I don't know who. I'm sure he called some other people some other guys Captain, but he always Captain. And so I started calling him Captain.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. We just called each other Captain, and we had a great relationship. And one more, I probably did 2 more songs on the CD, and then I did about a whole CD. I did all the music on it. And he, as well as he sung, he entrusted me. He entrusted me to do the music, his son-in-law. So I was very glad, and I had some long nights working with that music. But I just thank God for him. And I told Joel, I said, Joel, I hadn't even talked to you since the captain got on the ship. So the captain is on the ship, and he's running it. Glory. And he's not in no more pain. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay,
we're grateful. Thank you for sharing. And we want to tee up Ms. Warnett as well. We appreciate you for sharing as well, Mr. Ross. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm Warnett Ross, the second oldest daughter, and we have 2 children. One, we gave him his 5th great grand, but we have another little one after her. But it was just such a blessing to be a part of this. One thing I've gotten from my father is that he was very talented as far as, well, you can see it in Joelle with her theater arts. All of us pretty much sing. And then I got singing from him. Joelle got the theater arts, and Craig, of course, Craig is found, he's a preacher. My other sister, Laurel, she sings too. Robin, I believe, sings. And then the thing is, I think I got the jokey side of him because he's always doing tricks, and I was always the one that loved to be, fun, being fun and whatever, because he definitely loved to make people laugh. And I was like that growing up as well. Craig, we would go to Bermuda, and Craig is like that too. Joelle was just a baby. She would always, be the baby around us. But I definitely know we got his talents sprinkled through us five. We have his talents all sprinkled through, and our children sing. And I just thank God for that, because he was definitely gifted, and he definitely was loved by people. He was very, very well known as far as being just friendly. You can have some people that have just ugly acting when they get up there and they can sing, but as talented as he was very humble and loved people. And then you can hear that in how everyone has spoke about him or whatever. And I thank God I'm Warrenette.
Warrenette, named after him.
And Craig is Craig Warren. But
he had no problem with branding, right? He had no problem with branding. He was a man ahead of his time as far as branding. He probably would have had a lot of followers on social media if that existed during this time. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you sharing. Even as you mentioned the names and the jokes. I do remember him saying, "Everything's chicken but the gravy." I believe it's something like he may have said. Just different little sayings. He had a special saying for my wife every time she'll go by. He'll sing out to her, and always someone who brought joy and was an example of a progressive masculinity, right? A man who could bake, right? Worked at the bakery, I believe. Was also could cook, could sing, right? Being able to express himself, but also was committed to his family. You all are an example of that. I know many of your children, so his grandchildren are gifted. They're activists in their own rights and budding lawyers and creatives. And so I just want to just affirm your family and thank you for the gift of Uncle Warren. And on behalf of my family, to also acknowledge you and to give you our condolences on behalf of my wife, who's from Riviera, like you all, right? And also, my father-in-law, who was, I believe, the best man in his wedding, sang the Harmony Four with him. Our roots are deep in connection with you all. My grandmother, who's in the Warren years, who I think called him Squirby. They all have their little names, Squirby. It's just so many connections. And hopefully, during this brief conversation, you felt the love from many in your village. What were you going to say, Joelle? What say you?
Oh, sorry, pushing the wrong button. He called her Scroby.
Scroby. He called her Scroby. All right, there it is. I got to get it right. I'm sure my nana would have corrected us. Yes, that's right. He could. But so many memories, and I'm grateful for his influence and his witness, and just want to give your family your flowers and thank you for sharing him with us and sharing this time with us. In closing, also, Joelle, hopefully you enjoyed the surprise. I think you often producing for everybody else, but we wanted to also pour back into you, and I want you to know that you were excited to hold Clifton Davis's hand, but we're excited to also hold up your arms and your family's arms during this time as you continue to share the God of your dad with the world. There's a line that was made popular in a song that we know well. It says, "If when you give the best of yourself, telling the world that the Savior is come, be not dismayed when men and women do not believe you. He'll understand and say, well done." We believe that Uncle Warren has made his calling and election sure, and will hear the words, well done. Imperfect, broken like many of us, all of us, but intentional in using his gifts for the Lord and influencing this community. And so on behalf of the communities that have been blessed to be a part of his village, thank you for sharing with us. And may God cover, encourage, and keep you during this difficult time. And may the seeds that he has planted in each of us bear great fruit until we see him again. Thank you for being a part of this conversation, The Village Behind the Man. And now we pray that you are blessed by the documentary produced by his daughter, Joelle Williams, entitled The Man Behind the Voice. I'm your host, Dr. Ty Douglas, and we're grateful to have had you with us as a part of this conversation. Be encouraged.
Say